Hi, my name is Daniel Brimo, reporting live from Nerdspace Creative Hub, from right here, the heart of northern Nigeria, Kaduna State. And if you've been watching this series, you know that I've been speaking to prominent business people and creative people in Kaduna State that have been able to build and differentiate a brand for themselves. Today, I have a very, 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 very interesting guest with me. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with this person for quite a while, and luckily he was able to, kind enough, to create time for me today. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the man behind the best restaurant in Kaduna State, the heart of northern Nigeria, Mr. Chef Jika Bobo. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome
so
to
much.
Nerdspace Creative Hub. It's an absolute pleasure. Yes,
Thank you so much.
The pleasure is actually mine. You have built yourself to become stuff of, I would call an underground celebrity in Kaduna State. And here we are in the north. The north is known to be mostly conservative.
Yeah.
And you have been able to venture into the restaurant business and establish yourself as a chef.
Rightly.
And here we are.
Yeah.
This is 5 years down the line, 5 years down this journey.
Yeah.
And you are arguably the best chef and with the best restaurants in Kaduna State.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I can attest to that because I've actually eaten at your restaurant a bunch of times. I'm personally a fan.
Yeah.
Why I wanted to have this conversation with you was because from a place of personal admiration and from a place that is, I admire the progress that you have made, from a personal perspective. But, it's important for a lot of other people out there who are ambitious to build something or to create something, to understand, to hear from you and to understand some of what it takes to be able to get to this level.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your story.
Yeah.
How did you get here? How did you start? Where did you start from?
Okay.
Can you share this story with me, please?
Once again, I want to sincerely appreciate you for giving us this platform.
Thank you.
To be able to share our own story. Just like Amanda will say, we can only tell our story by ourselves. Just talking about whether it's Africa, about colonialism, and so many other things. But to be specific with regards to CBae as a whole, it's all about values, passion. So I grew up in a home where both parents cook. My dad happened to study in France. Of course, we know France is well known for fashion, food, luxury and all of that. So I grew up in a home in Jos where almost everything we eat first comes from the garden, when my dad had the time, and luxury because he was a banker. And I saw both parents engage themselves in the kitchen. But there was something peculiar about me. I happened to be the first child. And then we're the first three kids. My mom actually has four. We're four. The first three kids were guys. So, but since she didn't have a daughter as a first son, she decided to transform me into the daughter. So I was always around the kitchen. Of course, my mom doesn't know how to cook vast majority of the stuff I do today. So there was that desire and passion to continue with those values I was brought up with. So I ended up, as God would do it, in the secondary school, which was a missionary school in Jos that had a bakery.
Okay.
At the age of 13, I told the school, when we lost the guy in charge of the bakery, I told them I want to bake. And then they were surprised. It's a boarding school. How can a 13-year-old boy be in charge? And I started the first night, of course, I burnt all the bread because I was still young, and then we bake overnight. But the second day, the third day, because we used to bake with him, my dad used to sponsor him because he was a missionary. So I took up the challenge. Of course, it was a bit soft for me, so I don't go for other duties in the school. So I started from there, and then I baked 3 times a week. No kneading machine, half a bag of flour. I mixed just I and my younger brother helping out. And then I did that for 3 years until we left the school after our GS3 because of insecurity.
I beg your pardon. Yeah. This is at the age of 13.
Yes.
You were volunteering in your school. That's a boarding school.
Boarding school, yes.
In your boarding school kitchen.
Yes.
To bake for the whole school.
For the whole school. Approximately almost.
I wonder what are 13-year-olds doing today? Like,
so it started from there. Then the next school I went to, And then I went, and then it was time for them to give the position of prefect to the school, SS2 student. And then the first thing they did was they noticed, I was a transfer student, and then they couldn't give me the post of the head boy. And then the most difficult job then was the dining hall, because everything was centered around the dining hall. Then lo and behold, they made me the dining hall prefect. I'm like, oh my God, so you can see a progression, and God was preparing me for all of this. I became the dining hall prefect. And amazingly, I just did not end up just being the best prefect, but also the best student. And then I made a lot of changes. I contributed a lot to how the dining hall was run, innovation in terms of how we source for some of the raw materials we used to cook and all of those things. Then I went straight to the university, and then, of course, University of Abuja. I was known up to the market because I had this basket I used to shop. So when I'm resuming, the whole community is welcoming because they use the biggest car at home to bring me because of vegetables, food items. So I have a passion to feed, to put food on people's table. I hardly eat. Of course, I'm always around food. But I was well known for the desire to always open my doors to give people food and good food. But in turn, for me, I was preparing myself by practicing. So I was using as guinea pigs. So I cook. I invite friends, and it kept on that way. So we hardly eat out unless for maybe leisure. So, and of course, I ended up serving, and then I got employed in an oil company in Port Harcourt.
Wow.
Where I worked for 9 years, not as a chef, of course, from HR to accounts. And then I resigned as a regional manager about 6 years ago.
I'm sorry, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Let's just get this. Let me just understand what you're saying, because this is 2024. This is the year is 2024, and we're in Nigeria, right? Yeah. You're telling me that you have 9 years experience working in the downstream oil and gas sector. Yeah. And you had different roles from HR, accounts, retail, sales. Yeah. And then you became a regional manager.
Sales, Northeast.
So here you are at what a lot of people would look at as a dream career, spanned over a period of 9 years. Yeah. A lot of Nigerians, young Nigerians, only dream of stuff of that. Yeah. And what happened?
I wasn't satisfied. My satisfaction came not from holding the pen to write queries of checks or whatever. My satisfaction could only come from being in the kitchen. So I had a GM who usually calls me and says, Bobo, you will not achieve this your dream until you leave. So there was a trend in the office then, whether from Lagos or Port Harcourt. So when any of the colleagues of ours get married, I volunteer to cook. Whether they pay the flight or not, so I've cooked in Akwa Ibom, I've cooked in Abia, so many places. And I do it just like charity. I just enjoy it. And I go. And so it didn't just start by just saying I want to resign. So when I was drafted to Yola, I decided that, okay, what do I do? So first, I decided that I will introduce what I call a monthly buffet. And then what I do was then I'll come from Yola when they pay salaries, I'll take almost 50 to almost 70% of my salary, which was really tough for me. To cook, the train was just lunch. But amazingly, we were offering buffet 3-course meal at Space 2000 once every month for 3,000. And I had friends who knew me come all the way by train from Abuja to make sure they experienced that buffet. So we started from there. So every month I did that for almost a year.
What year was this?
So I started from 2018.
2018, okay.
Yes.
So you were still in Yola at the time?
2017, 18 years.
You were still in Yola at the time?
About to leave, yes.
Okay, so I left you would come from Yola and host a buffet at Space 2000 here in Kaduna State? Yes.
For 3,000, and then people come in, they eat as much as they are. So the idea wasn't to make money, because of course we're running out of loss. I know they did. It was just to make sure that maybe we pay the basic bills, and then sometimes I even owe the people that help me to prep and all of that. So, but I was determined to do that.
Wait, wait. All of this while you were doing this, purely out of passion?
Yes.
Did you have it in mind that while you were doing all of this out of passion and you're not necessarily getting any profit or getting paid for it?
Yeah.
Did you ever have it in mind that you were possibly laying the foundations as to what is going to be a brand, or you're building a brand? Because a brand is a promise.
Yeah.
And your reputation as a brand is how much you're able to keep that promise.
Yes.
So all of this time that you were doing this out of passion.
Yeah.
Did it ever occur to you that you're building a brand for yourself?
Yeah, I had always dreamt. I had registered CBae as a company a few years even before I started this. I just kept the CAC there.
Right.
So of course there were issue of financial constraints and
Capital.
all of those things, and yes. So of course I've been passionate, and I knew that
one
God
day
was going to take me somewhere.
I like that.
So there were all sacrifices that
like
needed
that.
to be made to be able to lay the foundation for this and to create awareness about my whole idea, which was quite different from what we had around here. And basically doing it in Kaduna was even more passionate for me, because when I got transferred from Port Harcourt to Kaduna particularly, I noticed that there was a bit of difficulty in locating laid-back restaurant. What do I mean by laid-back restaurant? Calm, reserved restaurant. I'm so passionate about values. Values are what have nurtured me to be who I am today. You spoke about opening a restaurant in core northern state and all of those things. So I being a chef as a man in the kitchen doesn't make me less a man. So it should be a plus to either a woman or even to the generation. So it means that we should encourage our young people to embrace skills.
Challenging the stereotypes.
The nature of our economy, the evolving state of the world and all of that. Of course, started mass economics, then later they changed my department to sociology. But with all of those certificates, I've worked in different departments. It didn't pay as much as the skills you acquire with your hand. So I was desirous to open a laid-back restaurant. Yes, we're the first in southern Kaduna, and then we always cross the river to go to the north. So I said, no, I don't want people to cross the river. I want to try, because I knew the challenges are available here. Sometimes southern Kaduna may be stereotyped for well-known places like pubs, that's alcohol, and so why can't we do something like that?
Something different.
Different.
I agree with you, because at the time I discovered CBae, CBae was the only restaurant in that part of town.
Yes.
Most of the other restaurants, and I would call names,
fine dining
restaurants were on one side.
Yes.
So here you are a corner now from Kaduna State.
Yes.
A man breaking stereotypes and deciding why you say so you were particular about opening on that side of town.
Yes. Yes.
Normally a lot of people, they say that people usually flock to where the masses, where the crowd is going to.
The market already there. So it's easy to go.
So what I'm getting is that you were bold enough to create or establish your business in a place that generally
the waters were not tested.
The waters exactly were not tested. And these are some of the values that these are some of the things that I personally find inspiring, and I can relate to that, and that's such a bold move. But before you go any further, tell me please, this CBae, what is the meaning of CBae?
Yeah, so a lot of people have asked that, and I try to encourage my staff to know their onions and to help me do that. But however, since we're on air today, so CBae are abbreviation, the first letters in my names, and I'm from Adama, even though my mom's from Bayelsa, because I'm always proud to say that I'm a true Nigerian. So from one end to the other end, and that has helped me a lot. So C is my tribal name, which is called Chimbana.
Chimbana.
Yeah, it means God's will.
God's will.
Yeah. Then B is my surname, which is Bobo.
Yeah.
It means God's servant.
God's servant.
Then of course I have Anora, my daughter, and then we have Emmanuel, my younger brother. So that's how I came.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Your tribal name, is it from Bayelsa Adama, or is it from Adama?
Chimbana.
Chimbana. I've never heard that name before.
Yeah.
Chimbana, Bobo.
Yeah, Anora,
and Emmanuel. CBae.
Yeah. So classic.
CBae to see your babe. Yeah. I like that. I like that. CBae. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you see, it's a passion project. So it only makes sense that you have drawn inspiration from some of the people that are closest to you. Yeah. People that mean a lot to you, your daughter, your younger brother, and yourself. And then you've also tapped into your tribal name from where you are from. That's so your village people are behind you. So there's that heritage, that cultural heritage that you have infused into your brand. That is inspiring. I hope a lot of younger people who are watching this will understand that culture, goes a long way, and your
yeah.
cultural heritage, there might be blessings from your ancestors.
Yeah, of course.
That name, from where it's coming from, blessings
Yeah.
from your ancestors that is following you.
Of course.
And so that makes a lot of sense. So finally, I know the meaning of CBae, because I've actually always wondered, even though I've never asked any of the staff, but I wanted to ask you in person, and I was always looking for this opportunity. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
So tell me, all this time you had this passion, you moved, you got the universal line, and you got transferred to, was it Yola or Kaduna?
So first I got transferred from Port Harcourt to Kaduna.
Okay.
That was around 2012, and then of course around 2016 to Jos, and no, 16 to Yola finally. Yes.
Okay. So you registered CBae in when?
2017.
2017.
Yes.
And between 2017 and 2018, you were hosting buffets.
Yeah. Sometimes even free.
Sometimes for free. Yeah. So you see, these are some of the sacrifices that a lot of people do not make.
Yeah.
And I don't know why people find it difficult to make this, because there is nothing that is good or built without sacrifice.
Of course.
If you're truly passionate about something, I believe that you should not make getting paid for it the first priority. So I saw this quote somewhere. They said, if you're not willing to do something, without getting, you're only going to get paid little if you're only willing to do it for the pay.
Okay.
So there's a certain limitation to what you would get as value from something that you're not doing out of passion. Yeah. And I can completely relate to that. Here we are at Nerdspace. Nerdspace is about to launch, and there's so much that we has been. So I'm actually learning, from you, and I appreciate some of these values. Sacrifice, passion,
patience.
It takes so much for you to travel from one state to another state to host a buffet that you're not making money off of. There is nothing else to that other than pure passion and pure drive. So, man, kudos to you for that.
Thank you so
and
much.
look at us 5 years down the line. CBae, the best restaurant in Kaduna State, unapologetic. Anyways, so I wanted to ask you. I know it's been 5 years into this journey. You mentioned you registered CBae in 2018. You opened
2017.
In 2017, I beg your pardon, and then you opened your
2019.
in 2019, 2017, 2018, 2019. You registered in 2017, opened in 2019. 2 years.
Yes.
What happened? Those 2 years.
Okay. So, like I said earlier on, I needed to lay foundation for people to accept and to believe that we're here and we're serious with what we want to do.
And it took 2 years to lay that foundation. Interested.
I needed to raise funds to prepare for the project, because what I wanted was something more than what at that time my resources could afford. So I needed to plan and to source for even resources to be able to carry on this project. So the 2 years was just the planning process, preparation. I was test running myself to see how people receive my style of cooking. My style of cooking, of course, is a bit different because I'm not trained as a professional. So I've never been to the walls of a cooking school.
You've never been to catering school,
never,
culinary school.
I have no certificate.
You're self-trained, out of pure passion, pure drive, pure interest.
Yes.
That's another inspiring point. Please carry on.
So I needed to prepare myself, even mentally. A lot happened within those two years. So it was just preparing ourselves, just on sourcing for even location. I've had we at some point we were supposed to be at a particular location, and then of course we experienced a bit of difficulties. But at the right time, we got this place we were, and then it took me 6 months, even after picking interest in that place. It took me 6 months to even pay my first rent because there weren't funds available for us. And then another few months again to begin the actual work of demolishing, renovation, equipping, and all of those training. We had we have done interviews and recruitment. 6 months even before some of these things started. I had a team of people that I knew were also in the industry that I felt would assist in looking at the kind of people I wanted to work with. So we're just preparing. The 2 years was just ample time I used to make sure that we're ready for it. And that's how we got to where we are.
So that is 2 years of laying foundation.
Yes.
You see, the reason why I'm emphasizing on all of this is because we live in a time of dopamine, instant gratification. Everybody is in a hurry to go to the market. Everybody's in a hurry to present themselves as a brand. Everybody's in a hurry to look the part. But for me, I don't think a lot of brands we have today, and this is one of the key elements to longevity and brand differentiation. Your brand, well thought out, you took your time for 2 years, sourced for funds, found a location, did interviews, got yourself a team. 2 years, before you even launched. Before you even launch. So that's I can complete. So Nerdspace is about we've been putting things together since last year, and we've been testing the waters. Just like so, I'm seeing a pattern here, and it's something that I can relate to personally as a founder of Nerdspace. We've taken our time, and a lot of people have often. I'm sure within that 2 years, you must have had a lot of people naysayers, a lot of people saying it's not going to work, a lot of people not having. How did you deal with all of that? Because not your vision and your dream is a one-on-one call between you and God. You understand? It's not a conference call. So not everybody around you would have really understood what you were doing, why you were taking your time. And I'm sure there are people that probably didn't even believe you or believe that it was going to work. How did you get through that? How did you cope with that?
So it's part of the story, and it's part of what I usually use to encourage young people. So not everybody is called for the same thing, and nobody is gifted with the same thing. So first, even as a sociologist, which is what I studied, your characteristics, which is what God has given you as a person, will definitely differ even if you are a twin. These are individualistic character that differentiate you from any other person.
True.
So at some point, I had to shut up my mouth and then keep my onions to myself. To whoever, whether it's my dad, my mom, maybe my pastor, because a lot of people never had the patience to understand the whole idea towards what I was trying to portray and bring to the market at some point. I was trying to tell if the resources are not coming, why don't you just do a small place, be doing Indomie? And then I wasn't working that hard to be an Indomie chef. Sorry that I'm calling the brand. I have nothing.
Yes. I mean,
yes. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Rather, maybe so that, but I have nothing against them. But it was much more than that. So I had to motivate, encourage myself, believe in myself, and work hard, and trusting that, at the end of it all,
trusting the vision.
Yes. So. I had an interaction with someone at some point, and then I told him it was going to cost me above $1 million. I don't want to be specific, but of course, it was above $1 million to do my chairs then. And then the person told me, why don't you just do plastic chairs and save that? And then I just noticed that this bad energy, I don't need to talk to this person.
Wow, honestly, you see, it's difficult. It's difficult to. That's a difficult time. Because here you are. You have this vision, you're trying to establish, you know what you want, you don't have the funds, and then you have people around you that are telling you to settle for less, because they don't understand the vision. So somehow you were able to get through all of that. And I'm very sure, as of the time you started, you probably didn't see the end. You were just going, moving one step at a time.
In fact, I've never said this on air, and maybe few, So while all of this were going on, I received the shock of my life because, of course, I told you about my daughter as a person. So, because I'm divorced, so I lost my family, I lost my marriage. Before even CBae came to being, like few or 6 or 7 months before that. So it was the worst possible time that you could think somebody would pick up his ashes and be determined to do what he had always wanted. It was people who opted to take him out in close family friends. How were you able to do it? Because it was the lowest point of anybody's life when that happened. I was determined not to allow the setback and all of those things to withhold me from achieving that. And here we are today.
You've been through
A lot.
your fair share
Yeah.
of, setbacks.
A lot.
So
Personally.
so I just want to just emphasize on this point.
Yeah.
You see, on the road to building something reputable, something worthwhile, you are going to experience your challenges.
Yeah, of course.
You are going to, and it takes a lot to be able to surmount those challenges.
Yeah.
So I would take it that your vision and your passion was stronger, was pushing you stronger than
the
these
challenges.
setbacks.
Yes, than the setbacks. Yeah.
It's a mind thing.
Yeah, of course.
You have to condition. I'm sure you must have at some point in the pain and the hurt that you're experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
Still be able to condition your mind to focus on the goal.
Yes.
And keep moving. And that's a very difficult stage because I'm sure everybody can relate to challenges and difficulties.
Yes, of course.
So thank you so much for sharing that, that with us.
You're welcome.
Let's switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
On this journey,
Yes.
Do you have people that you've looked up to, mentors? Are there people that maybe you used to just admire, follow, you see what they are doing, that used to inspire you? Because I'm sure there has to be, you must get some inspiration from somewhere, some motivation from somewhere.
Basically, like my favorite TV channel, of course, is Food Network.
Okay.
Master Chef Australia, Anthony Gordon.
Yeah.
So many
Gordon Ramsay?
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay.
Okay.
So there's so many amazing chefs, I have looked up to, of course. But like I said, if you look at the slogan of CBae, it says it's the premier traditional home style restaurant. So home is an integral part of my life. I'm a home lover. That's my peaceful place. Then my garden. So of course, my parents, my dad, my mom, it's important that I make it clear, like, especially my mom, because the values I got from the kitchen and all of those things. I'm not saying that they didn't do so much, but for me to be able to do all the things I'm doing today is because she kept on speaking to us as young people. The fact that a man doesn't mean you won't clean, you won't mop, you won't help, you won't do it. So as young as I was, even from early 2000, those days when we used to share food trays during festive period, I noticed, people notice rather, my mom goes to church and then leave the boys at home. So I stay back to cook, because then growing up, I don't know for Kaduna, but we usually share food trays in the morning on festive.
Yes. It's a cultural thing. Yes.
So I always look up to those people. But I think at the latter stage of my life, especially when I became adolescent, I have this English teacher of mine who happened to be my best friend, Mr. Tanko Noah. Sometimes they look at us as being firm, tough individuals. Back then in school, we became so close. I'll repeat again, Mr. Tanko Noah, my English teacher.
Mr. Tanko Noah.
Yeah.
Please, I hope Mr. Tanko Noah is watching this.
Yeah.
And you see, another thing that I want to highlight, you've highlighted family values. You've highlighted the values that your mother instilled in you as a male child, and breaking some of these stereotypes, these gender stereotypes, that men are not supposed to be domestic, men are not supposed to cook, men are not supposed to clean. But here we are, here you are, best restaurant in Kaduna State, making a living for yourself, making a name for yourself, innovating and inspiring. And I digress a little bit. Since CBae, over the last maybe a year plus 2 years, I've seen a lot of restaurants pop up on the scene. And you, I think, have blazed the trail. You kind of opened the door, paved the way for some of these restaurants. I walked into a restaurant the other day, and because I'm a bit of a food enthusiast, I'm not one of those influencers that be doing, hey guys, no, I just go into the restaurants and I get a meal and I eat, and I have my perceptions and I have my ratings to myself and all of that. So I walked into a restaurant and I noticed that the menu was exactly CBae's menu, and I'm like, okay, CBae is actually making, CBae is actually influencing, and the irony is that CBae is not all over the place. CBae is just where it is, and they're actually influencing the dining culture and the rest, which is you should give yourself a pat on the back for that. I'll give you that, because I've seen a lot of restaurants come up and they've tried to match the quality and the variety of offerings. So you have competition.
Thank you. Yeah, of course.
You have competition.
If I'm to add to what you just said now, so we had always, I had determined that we must define ourselves. We can't be another person. Defining ourselves can be related or it coincides with the values I share. So basically, if you are to be an employee of CBae, there are two cardinal alphabet that you must know, you must adhere to, which I call my Q's and R's. The Q means quality, and they're multiplied into 3. So, and the R means respect, humility. So, but let me start with the Q's. So, I believe in the quality of my staff, training, retraining at whatever cost, consistency, improvement in staff, welfare, what do you call it, outfit, uniform, and all of those, the tools required for them to excel. The quality of our building is important, that as small as our place are, we're clean, we're innovative. If the earth does not sleep, why should I sleep? So I wake up and God gives me an opportunity every day to be alive. Then CBae will continue to be alive with what? Consistent innovation. Change is constant.
Yes.
I will digress again. I being a sociologist.
Yeah.
And because change is constant, that's the only thing that is constant. Change. We have raining, dry season, summer.
Yes. Yes.
So why should we remain
in stagnant?
Season?
Yeah.
It can't be static. So continuous innovation, improvement on the building is important.
That's very evident. Yeah. I mean, we just did a whole remodeling of your sit-out area, your cabana area. We have
first outdoor aquarium about 21 feet.
21 feet aquarium.
Yes.
First of its kind in Kaduna State.
Yeah.
Innovation.
Yeah.
You understand? You see, the thing is, it's very important that people understand that this whole, whatever you're doing, you have to think about it holistically.
Yes.
And you have to look at the different elements.
Yes.
And I would give you credit for that, because I was at the restaurant part of the time that construction was going on. And I usually would come and I like to sit outside.
Yeah.
So I had to sit inside, but I was looking forward to the aquariums being done. Yeah. So and kudos to you for being innovative.
Thank you.
You have competition and you are...
So I was trying to...
Your Q's and R's.
Yes.
Yes.
So the last Q is the quality of the food. I will tell you why I'm mentioning this. The quality of the food is important. Then we have the R's, respect for the people you work with, colleagues. So I being the owner of CBae, the executive chef of CBae, does not mean that I'm just Oga. So I clean, I mop, I develop menus, I teach. I will tell you about almost all the people I've had in the last 5 years who worked in CBae had to be trained again. Of course, some of them have worked in the industry for long, but I have my own values. I have my own expectation. My desire for excellence is top notch. So where they stop, mine continues. So respect, teamwork is important. So you don't come tomorrow and tell me, I'm leaving the job. And if it's by that, then you would have closed. So we must be able to work as a group, as a team. Respect for the customer. So it's important that we appreciate those people that come, and it's important that we're professional whenever we're attending to people that are friends and, of course, relatives and all of that. We must show empathy. Empathy towards the customer, especially even now that the economy is tough and all. So for everybody that comes in there, we've had people come in. It's a fine dining where, of course, we're there to make money, but we've had people come in there just to have a glass of water, for example. And of course, when you sit down, the staff are trained to understand that sometimes people are going through a lot. So when you have the first 2-3 conversations with the person, you know if you have to allow the person to calm down and just go through. So along the line, I got a friend and a customer who called me one day and told me, Jika, do you know CBae is therapeutic for mental health just because of the way we've nurtured the restaurant? Which takes me to the last one, which is the last, and respect for ingredients and techniques we used to work. We used to cook. If you notice in CBae, you have lots of flower pots.
In front, I noticed.
So these are herbs, everything we used to cook. A lot of people suffer from food poisoning because of the source of their basic ingredients. Of course, I grew up in Georgia, and I told you that we do almost everything we eat at home. So we have
that
a garden,
yes,
at home, but I also need a quick fix. So we invested so much in fresh herbs, which is the core basic ingredient and the secret to our cooking.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Let me just give you a round of applause because I would say this. You see, ironically, not ironically, coincidentally,
yes,
it's customer service week. This week is customer service week, and we do this customer service week in Nigeria, and we just do it for a week. It's not a core value for most businesses, especially in Kaduna State, where people have branded the state as not a lot is going on here, and there isn't a lot of competition here. So the more reason why it's important for you to set these standards and to differentiate. And these are the ways that you have been able, because these are things that as a client, as a client of CBae, I've been to CBae, I can attest to this. These are not just things that you're just saying just for the optics or just to. I can attest to this, and anybody who has been to CBae to have a meal can attest to this. We see these things, we know these things. Your customers are not foolish. Your customers are observant. You know, I can attest to this. Customer service is a place that a lot of businesses are actually lagging behind. They don't take customer service as seriously as they should. You know, and part of the reason why I really look forward to having this conversation with you was because I wanted to hear from you one-on-one. What are the intentional efforts and the intentional ways that you have been able to build and differentiate your brand? So hearing from you, it just validates, and I'm speaking to you on a different, not as a client of the restaurant now. We're sitting there having a conversation, and yes, I can understand this. I can attest to this.
Those core values, answers your question, and that was why, to summarize that, we operated CBae for 3 years without a signage, and we still sold. So I am a believer that it's not about how big your signage, it's not about how much of
it's not by noise.
So those Q's and R
core values
will give us sales, and it worked. So along the line, even with the signing we have, not just more, not because we're hiding anything, or we want to let people come and experience us and tell our story. So word of mouth, the experience, which we have a hashtag, the experience of fine dining, the experience of quality food, the experience of quality staff with respect for the ingredient, the people you work with, will give us sales. And that has been the basic value or tenant that has kept us going this far.
I hope everybody that is in the restaurant business in Kaduna State is listening and is watching. This is the man, behind one of the most reputable restaurant brands in Kaduna State. He's dishing it out, and I like it because you're very open about these things, You're very open about these things.
Not two ways about.
Exactly. These are not. It's not. You're not hiding these things or kind of protecting these values. Letting people understand that this is really what it comes down to. It's important that everybody hears this and everybody steps their game up, because I used to say, from between last year and this year, I've been telling everyone and everything that I do, I tell the people, this is Kaduna State. It's not business as usual. The game has officially changed. Whatever you're doing in Kaduna State right now, you need to step your game up. You need to step your game up. Ever since the whole urban renewal initiative by Mount Nasir El-Rufai, the last administration, it has kind of opened up, and it has catalyzed a cultural shift in Kaduna State. And now Kaduna is becoming more urbanized, not just in the infrastructure, but in the mindsets of the people. Mr. Jika, listen, I need to ask you something.
Please do.
You see, there's a trend going on right now. Everybody wants to set a Guinness World Record. We have one who is there's someone that's trying to do longest barbecue grill. Someone just did I think 50 hours cookathon. Why haven't you attempted any Guinness World Records? And that doesn't seem to appeal to you in any. Well, what do you have to say about that?
So let me start by saying, a wise man once said, like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Okay. So for people like Idabasi, was a good one. She had prepared for years. She had engaged in partnership. So it wasn't just all about the quick idea of trying to get yourself famous. There must be something behind every step you take. It shouldn't be about trend and fat enthusiasm that's happening now. I'm sure very soon, because I'm sure they're also getting tired of everybody.
Of course, I'm not sure how true this is. I think they've even maybe closed or banned Nigerians from certain categories of the world records. So because we're abusing the trend.
A shared desire for you to use whatever you're doing to influence certain things. So for me, I have so much reservation with regards to that. I have no problem with people, desirous of breaking records, but I feel like you must channel that energy by preparing well and knowing that whatever step you're taking has a shared goal like you rightly said, whether I'm from the north and whatever it is with regards to cooking and all of those things, how, because it's a bit appalling to me, with all due respect.
With all due respect,
yes,
please.
it's a bit appalling to me that sometimes I see it on social media space that people who want to do such are soliciting for funds to do such. So if you're not ready financially, physically, Hilda Bassi trained herself for a long period of time, even physically, financially, she got sponsorship. You don't have to go on social media.
Yeah,
that's my
you don't have to be begging for money. Essentially,
so if you want to do it, prepare yourself. And
so I would like to highlight from what you've said and even the conversation that we've been having so far. Now, there's a lot of your value system. First of all, is one of the things that defines you and defines everything that you do.
Yes.
Now, as somebody from the north, we can look at you now and say that you are an inspiration to men in general from the north, breaking the stereotype, because it's a successful business and you are taking care of your family and your responsibilities from what you do. So you are living up to your expectations as a man, but yet you are in a female-dominated industry.
Not sorry to cut you, not even only female-dominated industry. So I happen to be a fan of the owner of Sika. It's a top 5-star beach resort restaurant with a bit of a mini hotel in Lagos, Sika. So one of his interview or podcasts, he rightly said that it's disgusting and annoying that we have to wait for expatriates to come into the country to do what we know we can do. So as little as you recruiting a bartender, of course, maybe we'll have an opportunity to talk about our challenges. You have to go down to South Africa. So he took up, he's one of the young people, he's as young as I am, we are, to take up that challenge. And no, we can't always wait for expatriates to do. We can't always wait. I don't want to be specific.
And that cuts across every industry, because we have our human capital, our population over 200 million and increasing. Why do we keep looking for expatriates to come and do what we have the expertise to do?
It doesn't mean partnership. It's wrong.
Not
partnership, collaboration is important.
So it's important, yes.
But when you talk about whether entertainment and all of those is we need to begin to think inwards and how we should take up this challenge. When events happen back then in the music industry, you find out they bring people all the way, or we move to South Africa to shoot movies, we shoot videos and all of that. Things have changed, but a lot has to also change in the hospitality business. A lot. Because hospitality is a whole big environment.
It's a big industry, yes.
It's a big industry, yes. You actually said that. So I think that's also part of it, apart from, eclipsing and reducing the whole stereotype that, okay, and the woman should be. I tell, whenever I meet a lady, I tell her I'm a modern man, but I'm still a traditional African man.
Yes.
The values are still there, but it's important that right now we partner together, we grow together, we show each other that everybody has dream and aspiration to work. Careers are being built. So I have a daughter, and because she's a daughter doesn't mean that she shouldn't reach her potential. So if I have that, she can use me as an example to whoever she's going to get tomorrow. So we're supposed to work together.
She can look at you as a role model and use you as an example.
So her job is not in the kitchen like her.
Yeah, she can decide to venture into anything,
so
you understand?
As partner, she has a career to do. So if I have an opportunity to be in the kitchen in my own free day, let's cook for the family.
Interesting. Let's move down to the challenges. What are some of the difficulties that you have experienced, both from the time that you started up until now? What are some of the? Of course, right now there is the inflation, there's the devaluation of the naira, there's food prices going up, there is the fuel gas prices going up, and all of that. I mean, those are general challenges that we are all aware of. But specific to you, like what challenges have you experienced? Things that that really they really shook you. You understand? And then how have you been able to manage, especially from a business perspective, building a brand and sustaining that unique brand? What are some of the challenges that you experience?
The first and the most important is skilled hands.
Human capital. People. I can relate.
Skilled hands. Yeah. Yes, I'm not a professional chef. I call it in quote, of course. The passion, just like Richard Kwesi, he has been a very good anchor on CNN, but I've also been able to use that to inspire myself. Richard Kwesi always says, passion to portfolio. So I'll be able to turn my passion portfolio. So that's a different
passion to portfolio.
You understand? So, but skilled hands, recruitment, staffing has been an issue. So let me give an example. A day before I opened CBae, the same team that had done interview, I sacked them a few hours before I opened CBae because of their unwillingness. I just knew that it wasn't going to. So the challenge started from the first day. So while we were cleaning up to open the Sunday, and then I just noticed, there are a lot of issues. And then if we start on this trend, we may not be able to. So I fired everybody.
You fired your entire team a day before launch.
Yes, the customer-facing
team. The customer-facing team. You fired your entire customer-facing team a day
I withdrew all
before launch. Yes. That takes guts.
Yeah. So I use
that takes serious guts, because putting myself in your shoes, in that time, you just want to launch your business that you have been spent the last 2 years sourcing for funds, raising capital to build. And then for you to be able to make that decision, that is inspiring, man.
So having a team,
you get mine.
We have to. You grow in it.
Yeah.
So that has been the major challenge, because when people come in, they tell you they have all sorts of skills. And then for me, I'm lucky to be directly involved in my kitchen. If I wasn't prepared and I wasn't skilled the way I am, I'm sure everybody can come and go. But I am CBae. I am the menu. I don't say it with arrogance, with any disrespect.
No, please, you've earned your flowers. You've earned your flowers. Mr. Jika, Chef Jika, please. Yeah. You don't have to be modest. Kaduna is not in a time where Kaduna State is now. You don't have to be modest for anybody. You've built a brand, you've put in the work, you've paid your dues. Please take your flowers, and we give you that respect.
Thank you.
You are CBae, you are the brand. You understand? So it's something that I'm saying it like, and I'm supporting it on that level, because let us normalize people being confident and taking their flowers. We need more people challenging the status quo in Kaduna State. Kaduna is the heart of northern Nigeria, and Kaduna unfortunately hasn't had the best reputation. Understand? So why we're doing all of this is because we're trying to rebrand the state as a whole, but even more so to shake up the entire space and inspire people to level up. Because I feel personally, from what I've seen, Kaduna, by and large, the culture here is one that celebrates mediocrity, or that is compared to the global stage, or compared to even the Lagos and the Port Harcourt and all of that, even the Abujas, you understand? We haven't up until now, where we have brands such as yours and a couple of other brands that I'm featuring on this platform, set a certain standard. So please take your flowers. We give you that respect. But while we're giving you that respect, we urge you to stay on your toes, because people are watching, and people want that pole position that you currently hold. You've seen new brands coming up.
Yes, we were quite aware of that. We knew at some
point. It's good for business.
Yes, it's called competition. It's good. We knew at some point that we were not going to stay alone. So we had people who were customers who come in, and then we share ideas, and then we see the next thing they do that. And then I smile, because you know what? It's just like the aquarium and the renovation we did outside. The day I finished the aquarium, that same night I was looking at the next thing I need to do for that place. So I don't sleep. So while we produce, we create menus and recipe, I'm always trying to buy out more space for my phone, because I'm always thinking, what next do we do? Sometimes I used to have a pushback from my dad, so I don't say anything. Is this guy ever going to save? Because he's always making sure that CBae is just like a milking cow, so she's always milking me, so I'm just like a cow, to make sure that we sustain and improve. But like I said, with all of those competition and all of those things, we didn't just come into the industry just to be like any other person. We came with a shared goal to meet a certain niche market. And that's why we can boldly say that it's a reserved laid-back restaurant. Unfortunately, some may have a bit of a problem with it, but I want to have a restaurant that coincides with the values: home, peaceful, leave the hustle and bustle, come in, eat quiet, respectfully, enjoy your meal, and go back home and enjoy yourself. And that is just it. It's not a place with a whole beehive. It's calm, reserved, and that's why even the people that want to work with me, because sometimes we find it difficult to relate, because I want that core value maintained. It coincides, like I said.
I'll share a story with you.
Yes.
And I'm enjoying this conversation so much, even though we're like really pressed for time, but I would like to share a story with you. So there's a student, I had this lady who was in one of my classes, and when I taught her in 100 level in her first year, and I'd also taught her in her second year. And so I know, and her class size wasn't so big. So I noticed, I observed my students as a lecturer. I would, very observant of my students. And she had a reputation of being very tardy, very disorganized, very out of place. And then the next thing, I come to CBae for a meal, and I see that she's working for you.
I think I know that stuff.
and then the next thing, I am seeing improvements even in her conduct in school. And she's more on time. She's more on top of her studies. I've seen improvement. And I'm like, it has to be CBae, because I know this individual, and she wasn't, she wasn't as put together as she was before she started working with CBae, that as compared to how she was after she started working with CBae. So I've seen the values that you instill in your staff.
It's just part of the whole idea. In fact, that particular staff, when she first started working at CBae, she used to be our customer. I learned, and then over time, we placed an ad and she came. And then someone questioned me like, can you manage this? But I said, well, she said she want to work. As far as you can adhere to my rules, it's fine. In fact, even after she has stopped working with us, and then, but maybe she might not have told me. Of course, I know a few of her colleagues that she has said that, even when I said it's okay now, because I needed more in terms of improvement in some of the services she offers, and then I felt like I have had enough. And then she at some point said, "Oh God, don't try." That's what she said, because she hasn't seen someone that has put in so much
patience. She had to go back to school.
Yes. So the whole idea is, it's not just running a business; it's a community of both the customers, the staff, and everything that surrounds us. So we are supposed to be impactful. There's
Impact.
So there's a social factor to that. I have had staff, or we still have staff, who, by the virtue of working in CBae, have an opportunity to put food on their lunch, in the lunch box of their kids. It's that important. Money may never be enough, but I've seen the impact we've done. I can't remember in the last, of course, every entrepreneur has a challenge, but in the last, let me be kind with myself. Maybe in the last 3 years, maybe if we owe, so we pay us at when due, to the extent that sometimes the staff will say we're paying too early, and we set the benchmark. Whatever the federal government says, whatever it is, the whole idea is not by how much volume we make or how many people are able to reach, the satisfaction that people get from entering that building, the comfort, their ability. Like I said, the customer who said therapeutic, she brings people for therapy sessions at CBae because it's calm.
Interesting.
You're not harassed. You're not embarrassed. It's calm. So while they're eating, she's talking back and trying to remind them of the essence of living. So that's the whole idea. I have amazing staff of about 15. And then from those that are married to those that are not married, look at me as a father to them, as young as I am. That can only be based on those values. And you could see it impactful. A lot of them have come into CBae. The person heading my kitchen for me to be able to be here today came as a cleaner 3 years ago.
Interesting.
Cleaner. And I'm proud to tell you that that woman can cook. Let me be fair, 70% of the meals. So I'm impactful. Some other places you have to pay for such. So I'm paying you, and
you're learning, you're upskilling, and so there is growth.
There's room.
And I really,
it doesn't mean that we don't have professionals.
Yeah.
We have experts. We have someone from Gambia that works with us. So we've had so many people, but the whole idea is impact the community, the people that work with. It's important that whatever we do, from the food. A staff called me one day. She says, "I want to do pizza at home. Do I mind?" She doing it. I said, that's why I'm teaching you. So to improve your standard,
even your standard of living, and your standards, your personal standards,
and all of those things. One asked one particular time, please, sir, how much do you buy the vinegar used to sell? I said, what do you mean? She said, no, she wants to keep a bottle of vinegar in her kitchen. Of course, she may not be able to afford. Her house may not be as fashionable as maybe some hours, but it's relieving, it's encouraging when I see them maintaining that high standard,
even in their personal lives, even in their homes.
So it's that empathy, that love that abounds in the home, has been transformed and put in place in a building like CBae, and that's the most important thing for me.
From the home, values instilled from the home into the business, and re-instilled back into the home. So you're building a cycle of transfer of values and impact. I think after all said and done, the writing is on the wall. There is, be looking to interview other restaurant owners, and I would looking to understand their own perspectives on the business and their journeys. But the writing is on the wall. I personally, after today, you know, I can say for sure, you know, that CBae, as of today, we are in October 2024. CBae is the best restaurant in Kaduna State. I would love to sit down with other restaurant owners to have these conversations with them and to understand what their core values are and what are some of the elements that help them to, you know, sustain their brands and build their businesses. I've spoken to some staff from other restaurants, some of which are, you know, owned by foreigners, and some of the feedback that I've gotten is that, you know, their employers don't treat them very well. You know, I've seen the way that you treat your staff. Listen, I want to be very clear. You know, I'm not trying to sell your brand. You know, the numbers are there. The statistics are there. You know, the facts are out there. You know, it's all out there. You know, so it's not for us to come and sit down here and be famsing or and be chasing clouds or and be, you know, the numbers are there. You know, and I will share something with you that I haven't even told you before, because of all the times I've been to the restaurant. I know you're very busy. My mother was a lecturer in Kaduna Polytechnic at the Department of Kitchen. It was called Kitchen and Hotel Management. You know, and she was a lecturer for 35 years. So I've been exposed to some of that from that perspective of academia and some of those values. So when I go into some of these restaurants, I'm not going as just some random, you understand? I would go to my mother's department, and I would go and see where they are evaluating, where students are being evaluated, their presentation, their neatness, their dressing, and I see all of these things. So when I go to restaurants, I actually look out for some of these things, and I've been able to identify some of these values also in your system. So coming from a place, you know, in a home where, you know, my mother also, you know, was in academia where she taught these things. I can see some of these ethics and some of these values practiced in your business. So I'm not a food influencer. I'm not a food blogger. You understand? You know, but we don't put these things out there. I just go and look for good food, fine dining. You know, how you know that it's good food is how it makes you feel. So good food makes you feel good. You know,
and you know, there's one thing about food. Food can never be complete when you don't allow Mother Nature to take its place. It's an art of cooking that brings about the opportunity for Mother Nature to take its place, and that's what we have embraced in CBae by investing. In fact, the whole idea of CBae is supposed to be a farm-to-table kind of concept to reduce the carbon footprint in the environment. Of course, we're in times where everybody's trying to reduce the carbon footprint. So why do you have to go as far as just for almost everything? But if it means that getting those things from good greenhouses, if you are opportune to have real-time information about water table content or a place like Abuja, you'll be sure some of our water table content are polluted with lead and all of those. And so that has led me to invest also in growing my herbs. So I trust what I grow from my farms. I don't have to go in as much as we pay very keen, you know, notice on basic hygiene. Growing them reduces all of these hindrances. I've never, maybe on rare occasion, maybe I wouldn't say we're not perfect, but we try to maintain that. So the whole idea is you go to your farm, you grow your herbs, you take it back. So you're empowering. But of course, we build over there is also very good, wonderful relationship. I'm always in Jos. I have very good, wonderful relation with farmers. So when I go there, it also gives them value for money. So there's no middle hand. So I go there.
It's farm to table as you envision it to be.
So it's freshness. Of course, both from our garden and the farm. When we started CBae, even the eggs we use are grown CBae. I've never used frozen chicken. We get them fresh. We slaughter it ourselves. We marinate it ourselves because of what we also want is because the trend about food has gone beyond just going out. There's issue about people desirous to meet and maintain their health.
Yes, we've become more health conscious.
There's the issue of improvement in agricultural practices that's exposed us to so many things that lead to also illnesses that people know. So they are cautious about that. And that's why even the ingredients we use and all of those things are important.
All organic.
Yes.
Are you conscious about GMO?
So all of those things, you understand? So when we cook with clear, and that's why we open, sometimes we go as far as open our kitchen. Even yesterday I had a customer that usually comes away from Kawo to eat. So the wife was saying, Chef, I want to enroll for your next cooking class, which I've not had time. And I told her, no, Hajia, we'll do the classes in our kitchen because they've been supportive, just like people like you.
That's amazing.
So kitchen is open. we've had some of our friends who are Lebanese and the rest go as far as it's a small kitchen, based on the size of the restaurant. But we try as much as we can to meet up those. And that's why even as little as the water leaf and ugu we used to cook come from the garden. That's how important it is for us.
Interesting.
So that helps also to build that confidence. Of course, when you cook with passion and love, the end result is what you get.
Yeah.
So, but we allow nature to take its place. So I just cook and then allow Mother Nature to allow the taste buds to take its place. But we do our best to lay and provide those basic ingredients for Mother Nature to be able to take that place.
All right. Look, I can have this conversation. There are so many nuggets, so many takeaways, so many strong points, high points. I would be watching this interview back to back and still be taking notes. I just have two last questions I want to ask you very briefly.
Yes.
Signature dishes. How do you run? Because I noticed that there's always something new on the menu. There's always something. Notice that CBae always has something. So how do you manage that? Did you have a system for that?
Okay.
Do you have a signature dish? Are there signature dishes based on seasons? What's up with that?
Okay, so I'm very particular with health.
Okay.
And that's why some of us, some of the ingredients we use may not really be the best people want in terms of maybe the oils we use, So for example, if you order maybe samosa and spring rolls, we make chili sauce, but it's stir fried with sesame oil. It has a bit of a pungent smell, So, but we give people reasons. I had a customer periodically complain about, maybe his smoothie being a bit sweet, and I tell him with all confidence in my chest that we don't put sugar, we don't put additives in it in terms of maybe sweeteners. We try as much as we can to get those vegetables or fruits fresh. But back to the issue of the signature dish. So it comes out of everything in my menu is the food I want to eat. The food I love to eat is what I'm giving back.
Giving back. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
You understand? So, of course,
it's not far-fetched.
It's not far-fetched for me. So I have this open kitchen which I've spoken to you about. So when I close from work, I get home. Okay, I have the software that gives me day, hour, minute report on how every individual meal or item on the menu sells. So I look at first, why is this not selling as much as this? Is it that the staff are not telling people about it? Is it that people don't know? Is it that they don't like? Of course, everything about my menu is tailored around me. So yes, we offer one of our best pasta, which is bolognese, has been tailored to be based on not only because it's bolognese. Of course, we all know it originated from Bologna.
Yes.
It's an Italian. Italians are known for pastas and all of those things. But there's the whole idea for you to have vegetables, eat well, vitamins, and all of those things. So I basically sit down and then look at my taste buds and then look at, okay, let me add this and this. I like seafood. Okay, if I add this and this, of course, based on the basic knowledge of where that item has originated from. For example, we have what we call the Holy Trinity. So maybe in France, you have your onions, you have your carrots, you have your green beans, pan fried with butter, maripois. We have sofrito.
Oh my goodness! Well, this is what we are getting today. Is we're getting a master class. So, this has turned into a master class in the art of cooking. Yeah.
So when you try that oil, it becomes sofrito Italian.
Interesting.
So when you remove the onions and put scallion, ginger, it goes to Asia. So when I sit down, my taste buds, give me something that I feel I want to share it, and then that's how we come about some of those things.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Finally, what does being a chef mean to you?
It can be overwhelming because literally I have no social life. I've given everything I have. Of course, it's my business and I want it to excel. It takes a lot. So I think Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain,
yes.
The late Anthony Bourdain.
You know how he died? Suicide.
Yes.
So I'm not saying I'm going to commit suicide, but
and God rest his soul. Rest in peace, Anthony Bourdain.
He died in France, and he's one of the greatest chefs we've had in the history of the world, more than era. But you find out that they give in all, you know, the 24 hours, the heat, the knives, everything go through them. And nobody knows how. I cook a lot, but I have a terrible eating culture. So it takes a lot. It affects, if you're not careful, it affects even your mental health. Because you keep on rolling. We literally have little or no break. I'm there 2-4-7. Not even because it's my business.
I've seen you, I've run into you late hours, closing late hours.
Yeah.
You know, so I can completely understand.
The satisfaction just comes at the end of the day when you see a smile on the faces of your customers, when you see a smile on the faces of your staff. That is what gives the satisfaction at the end of all. It's not just about the revenue, because even when you generate the revenue, do you have time to spend that money? So that's the whole.
Most of which you are even reinvesting back into the business.
You know, so it takes a lot, but God has been faithful. And we're determined to keep on pushing, to inspire. Of course, I can't do this forever. I'm always praying to have young people who are desirous to learn. I've had a lot of young people. I want to encourage them to come in as far as you are willing to stay and learn, so that we can hand over this thing.
Continuity.
It's not just
legacy.
about me. Yes, there must be continuity. There must be, a shared vision for that place, and hopefully we are able to make that. Thank you so much.
Wow, this has been, I would say, it's an understatement for me to say. It will be an understatement for me to say this has been a pleasurable experience. This has been an explosively informative, and just inspiring experience to sit down and have this conversation with you. On this note, on this bombshell, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you come in and have this conversation with me right here at Nerdspace Hub. Are we going to be looking to see more branches of CBae, possibly other states, maybe one in Jos, one in Abuja, or maybe more branches in Kaduna?
Growth is, like I said, change is constant. Growth is necessary. When the growth comes, you are left with no choice than to allow it
to take its course.
So of course, we're preparing. We're there. We know the space is small.
So everybody in Kaduna,
I leave it.
You better tighten up you better pull yourself up by your bootstraps and tighten up your belts, because CBae is not stopping where it is. And on that note, on that bombshell, it has been an absolute pleasure once again. I cannot overstate how much of a pleasurable experience this has been. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, beautiful people from across the world, we are right here in the heart of northern Nigeria, and we've had a conversation, explosive conversation with the man, the brains behind what is the best restaurant in Chibiyar Arewa, the heart of northern Nigeria, Kaduna State, Mr. Chef Jika Bobo. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure. And I hope maybe down the line we can have another conversation when you open a new branch. And dude, I wish you all the best, man. I wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. Nerdspace Creative Hub coming at you live from Kaduna State, northern Nigeria. The game has officially changed. If you're in any business, any trade, any craft, any art, right here in Kaduna State, you better make sure that you sit up, because the game has officially changed. Ladies and gentlemen, peace out from Nerdspace Creative Hub. Cheers.